Are the Chicago Bears set to make some trades this offseason? We're going to talk about it here on Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham because Adam Schefter made some interesting comments believing that there will be an uptick in trades across the NFL. And you would think, given Ryan Poles' history, he's going to be sniffing around for some trades. Here's kind of what Schefter said. Then we'll get to the specific quote. But he basically said on his podcast that execs, GMs, coaches around the league do not view this upcoming draft and free agency as a great one. And because of that, that could lead to an uptick in trades and aggressive moves being made by GMs looking to improve their roster via the trade market. And then kind of separate from the Schefter report, but there's been some buzz that at the owners' meeting, some NFL teams could try to put to a vote to pass a new rule to make it where you can trade draft picks up to 5 years at a time. So right now, you can only trade picks for the next 3 drafts. So like if, I'll just do a hypothetical, if the Vikings wanted Joe Burrow, because there's been some thoughts of that, they can only offer picks through the 2028 draft. This year, 27, 28. Well, if this rule passed, they could offer picks through the 2030 draft. So they could say, hey, take the next 5 first-round picks. We'll also throw you 2 of these players, yada, yada, yada. So if that gets passed, then you could see some pretty wild trade offers be made in the NFL moving forward. But here is what Schefter actually had to say. He said, we got a free agent class that's not deep. We got a draft that's not considered real deep. You know what that tells me? It tells me we may get more wheeling and dealing in trades than we've had in other years. It seems to be a trend in recent years that teams are unafraid to make a big deal. And look, we know Ryan Poles is always sniffing around. We know he is willing to trade. He has made a lot of notable trades in just 4 years of being the GM. Some that have worked, some haven't. Now, he hasn't really done the crazy blockbuster trade. I'd say the biggest one he's done was the draft trade, right? Trading out of the number 1 pick in 2023. But just look at some of the notable ones he's made. One of the first things he did, taking the jobs, he traded Khalil Mack to the Chargers. He then traded Roquan Smith to the Ravens. He traded Robert Quinn to the Eagles. He traded for Chase Claypool. That was obviously a flop. Then he had the blockbuster draft trade with the Panthers. That's obviously paid off really well. He traded for Montez Sweat. He traded for Keenan Allen. He traded Justin Fields to the Steelers. And then last offseason, he got really good value on 2 high-level players, Jonah Jackson and Joe Thuney. That's just 10 trades. He's made a bunch of other smaller ones too, like Ryan Bates, draft night trades, things of that nature. And so we know this is a GM that is willing to wheel and deal. And it was also reported at this trade deadline from Schefter that they asked about Myles Garrett from the Browns. Now, that was a non-starter. Cleveland wasn't going to budge on that, so they traded for a lesser player in Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. But we know that the Bears are willing to look around for these moves. And if Schefter is right, and that's the narrative of this offseason, you could see GMs, including Poles, be even more aggressive. Clearly, the Bears need to make improvements on this roster, especially defensively. Their defensive line in particular, edge, defensive tackle, you could debate what's a bigger need. I would argue D tackle is actually a slightly bigger one, but more edges could be available on the trade market. Left tackle has entered the conversation considering Ozzie Trapillo may not be available at all this season. Safety, linebacker, those are 2 other positions on defense that you need to attack as well. So if they don't like what's available in free agency or the draft, they could be aggressive in trades. Now, luckily, the positions they need for the most part, there is some good depth in the draft along the defensive line. There are some good safeties available. Linebacker could be a little thinner, but there's still a few options on that front as well. I do think Poles will be active in trade talks. Now, the good thing about Poles is, for the most part, he hasn't been reckless. I would say the Claypool one in hindsight was borderline reckless. He tried, but I at least understood the logic behind it. It's like, hey, I want to give Justin Fields a fair shake here. Let's get him another weapon. And it was a disaster. It didn't work. But he's been pretty disciplined for the most part in terms of like not drastically overpaying in trades. Sometimes you do overpay in trades. That's just the reality. You definitely overpay in free agency, which he's done a few times. That's just part of how free agency works. You pay good players great money a lot of the time. That's how it happens. But I would guess again that they're going to be calling around to see who's available and if some deals can be done. So don't be shocked if the Bears are among the teams making some trades this offseason. Who is your dream Bears trade target? Anyone available? Who would you pick? Who do you want to go out and get Let me know in the comments section below. Now, these are 4 names that, I've kind of thrown out there as like splash blockbuster trade targets that you could try to get. Again, doesn't mean these guys are even available, but there's at least a logic that they could be. Myles Garrett a year ago wanted out. It's not a crazy thought to think he would want out again, especially considering Jim Schwartz is not back in Cleveland. Maxx Crosby, we'll get to him in a second. Danielle Hunter, the logic there is they're going to have to pay Will Anderson Jr. if they decide to pay C.J. Stroud. You can't pay everybody. Danielle Hunter, aging player, they could pivot off him. Jeffrey Simmons seems excited to play for Robert Saleh, but the Titans could opt to put more resources into the offense and around Cam Ward. So those are players at positions of need that I could see theoretically being available and the Bears calling around on. Crosby is clearly the name to watch because he's the one guy on that list that it kind of feels like he at least somewhat is open/ready for a new opportunity. Now, he has not come out and said that. We don't know what's been said behind the scenes between he and the Las Vegas Raiders. There's been a lot of rumors. At the same time, though, he has been kind of towing the company line when he has spoken publicly. He's like, yeah, I just want to, I'm just attacking my rehab and working on getting better every day and being the best player I can be. He could easily come out and put an end to this. He could come out and say, I'm a Raider. I'm going to be a Raider in 2026 and beyond. I don't want to play anywhere else. He has not done that. He could easily do that. Now, he's not going to come out and demand a trade publicly either. I think he's kind of threading that needle, going to see how this plays out. He's going to meet with Kubiak and the Raiders, and, I'm sure there will be discussions there. He wants to keep that behind closed doors, which I respect, but I think he's the guy to watch. ESPN, Jeremy Fowler has reported that Crosby's made it clear his top priority is winning and that he does not want to go through another rebuild or an attempted rebuild because the Raiders haven't exactly been successful at it. I would argue if I'm the Raiders, draft Mendoza, trade Crosby while he's got good value, commit to a rebuild and commit to building around Mendoza. But whether or not that actually happens remains to be seen. But if he does become available, I'm sure the Bears will be among the teams calling, and then it comes down to what the offer would look like. Okay, more to discuss on this topic from Adam Schefter's reporting here on Chicago Bears Now, but got to tell you guys about today's sponsor. That is Ethos. Life insurance isn't a fun topic to talk about, but it's important, especially if you're like me and you have a wife and a child. Thinking about their livelihoods made it easier to discuss, and I'm so glad I found Ethos as my life insurance provider. I carry a lot of responsibility in my household. If something happened to me, there's real consequences. Mortgage payments, tuition, everyday bills, other things. Those things just don't disappear. Life can throw you curveballs, and it's best that you stay prepared. With Ethos, you can get life insurance in as little as 10 minutes. Ethos has no medical exams, just a few easy health questions online. You can get same-day coverage without ever leaving your house. You can get up to $3 million in coverage, and some policies are as low as $30 per month with Ethos. So help protect your family with life insurance through Ethos today. Get your instant free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That is ethos.com/NFL Daily. Application times and rates may vary. Ethos.com/NFL Daily. Okay, when you get to like the next tier of trade targets, like remember last offseason, I thought Poles did a great job, right? Joe Thuney, Chiefs got to shed some money. Boom, we'll give you a 4th-round pick for an All-Pro. Guy won the new award, NFL Protector of the Year. Jonah Jackson for a 6th, come off a down year. Take a kind of a low-risk swing. Boom, has a bounce-back year, plays really well, familiarity with Ben Johnson. So you kind of get into these next tier of caliber player. With Chris Jones. Could that be another situation where the Chiefs are trying to shed money, buy low on a really good player, even though he's a little bit older, and Chris Jones get a few good years out of him? I would not be against that. Kenny Clark, they have 3 defensive tackles now. Quinn Williams is on board. Obviously, they paid Osa Odigizua. Could they flip him? DeForest Buckner with the Colts is another one. Vita Vea. Jonathan Cooper with the Broncos. They're probably not going to be able to give him another contract in a year or two, so maybe they sell him while he's got some value. Jermaine Johnson, the Bears made a call at the deadline. Could the Jets be willing to deal him now? Bradley Chubb in Miami. Trayvon Walker with the Jags. And then that left tackle spot, if they want an option to help hold it down for a year. Walker Little and Jalen Moore could be options. Little got phased out at left tackle, ended up the year playing right guard, so they're going to look to shed him potentially. And then Jalen Moore, with Josh Simmons coming back, the Chiefs could be willing to move off of him as well. And like I said, Poles did a great job last offseason. Like, hey, we're not going to force anything. We're going to kind of let the market come to us. Oh, Trey Smith is our top guy. You guys are franchise tagging him. Well, you probably can't afford to keep Joe Thuney then. How about a 4th-round pick? Sweet. Jonah Jackson, hey, Ben, can he fit back into your scheme? How do you feel about that one? Didn't go well at the Rams. Yeah, I think we can make it work. Okay, Rams, 6th-round pick. Both fit like a glove, right? If you can find those type of moves defensively where you don't have to do the blockbuster move, but you find value and still keep some of your premium draft picks, that would be fantastic. So we'll see what they do, but to Schefter's point, I think you're going to see a high volume of trades, and not everybody's going for a 1st or 2nd-round pick. So maybe the value trades are the way to go. Subscribe to the channel. We have you covered all off season long. If the Bears make a trade, we're making a video about it. We're probably going live as well for that breaking news. So lock us in, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and never miss an episode here on Chicago Bears Now. Also, you got to talk about the players Poles could pivot off of, guys he could trade away this offseason. And I think there's a few that could happen. Obviously, the big one is DJ Moore, and it's a hot button issue, and some people come at me when I bring it up. And look, I've said it a million times. This isn't is DJ Moore a good player or not discussion. I think we all agree he's a good player. Now, we can debate how good he is. I don't think he's a number 1 receiver at this point in his career, but I still think he's a good player. He certainly made some big plays this year in big moments. But he makes $28.5 million. And you have Luther Burden, Rome Odunze, Colston Loveland, and you need to put more resources into your defense. Again, it's a roster construction conversation. It's not a DJ Moore sucks, get rid of him. That's not what I'm saying. It's you have pieces offensively. You can afford to pivot off DJ and use that money elsewhere. Gervon Dexter's another one. I've been told about DJ and Dexter. With Dexter, they would look at a team-friendly extension if he's up for that. DJ, they may opt to restructure instead of trade, so we'll see what happens with those two guys. Obviously, Dexter, I thought, took a good step from year 1 to year 2. I did not think he took another notable step from year 2 to year 3. So is he a good fit in this scheme? Is that a guy I would pay long term? If it's not team friendly, I would not. DeAndre Swift, I like Swift. I'm cool with him being back. I've made that clear. Him and Monungai, you got a good thing going there for at least another year. But if you're trying to be opportunistic and upgrade there, you could trade Swift for a late round pick or even cut him. But if you do that, you have to have another running back in mind. And then Cole Kmet, I think an extension's more likely, but you could trade him and save most of his cap hit as well. Don't think that one's very likely at all because Ben really likes him, and they run as much 12 and 13 personnel as anyone else in the NFL. So look, trading for guys, trading away guys, if Schefter's right here and if teams are hesitant on the free agent market in particular and potentially the draft as well, teams might be willing to get rid of draft picks to go get talent. Teams might be willing to let go of assets to maybe get future draft capital. People look at the 2027 draft as a really good draft. We'll see how the next 12 months play out with the college football season. But, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think we should see some movement soon, probably around the NFL Combine. You're going to hear a lot of rumors and maybe even a couple of trades get agreed to across the league. And we'll see if the Bears are among those teams making those moves. All right, fill in the blank. The Bears will make blank trades this offseason, not counting draft day like pick swap trades. Players are getting moved. I think I'd set the over-under at 1.5. I think knowing Pole's history, he'll make at least one and potentially 2 or 3. So let me know in the comments. 1, 2, 3, more, 0, less, whatever it is. Fire away. Don't forget to follow me on TikTok. We're almost at 4,000 followers over there at HGramNFL, posting short-form content on a daily basis as well. Primarily Bears content, but some NFL, some college football as well. Appreciate the support. As always, bear down.